I don't need money. I just need a hug, like the one your son gave you. The voice of the 8-year-old black boy echoed through the elegant lobby of the shopping mall, drawing curious glances from people passing by, slowing their steps to witness the strange sight. Lucas Bryant, CEO of Bryant & Co. and one of the wealthiest men in America, had just stepped out of a luxury toy store, both hands full of expensive gift bags for his son Tyler, who is the same age as the boy. The black boy sat cross-legged beside the grand fountain, his eyes filled with quiet sadness and curiosity as he watched families walk past him. "Sorry, kid. I don't have time for this," Lucas replied curtly, adjusting his Hermes tie while trying to avoid the boy's gaze. His voice carried the cold, condescending tone of someone used to brushing off people he deemed unworthy of his attention. The boy slowly stood up. His worn-out sneakers stood in stark contrast to Lucas's polished Italian leather shoes. "It's not about time, sir. It's about care. I saw you hug your son inside, and I thought, maybe you could give me a hug too." Lucas froze, not from emotion, but from the discomfort rising inside him. "Where are your parents? Kids shouldn't be wandering alone like this. Someone should call security." "My mom works as a cleaner on the 3rd floor," the boy answered, with no trace of shame. "She said she'd come get me when her shift's over. While I wait, I sit here and watch happy people." Lucas frowned slightly at the answer. A janitor. Of course. His eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Listen, kid. I don't know what game you're playing, but I don't know—" "It's not a game, sir," the boy interrupted gently. "It's just, I've never been hugged by a father before, and you looked like you knew how to do it well." For a fleeting moment, something flickered in Lucas's eyes. Perhaps a distant memory from his own childhood, a time when he too grew up in a home without hugs. But the emotion vanished as quickly as it came, replaced by irritation. "Look, kid." Lucas bent down to the boy's eye level, his voice low and sharp. "The world doesn't owe you anything. The sooner you learn that, the better off you'll be. Now move." The boy didn't budge. Instead, his gaze locked onto Lucas's with a surprising firmness well beyond his years. "You're right," the boy replied calmly. "The world doesn't owe me anything, but I don't owe the world anything either." Lucas straightened up abruptly, caught off guard by the response. Something in the boy's voice, its quiet resolve, made him more uncomfortable than he cared to admit. "Dad, why are you talking to that kid?" Tyler's voice rang out, pulling Lucas back to reality. The boy had run up beside him, glancing toward the black child. "He's not like us." Lucas smiled with approval and placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "Exactly, son. Some people just don't belong in our world." And with that, father and son turned and walked away, leaving the boy standing still, his eyes silently following their silhouettes as they faded behind rows of luxury storefronts. The boy's small hands clenched into fists, but his face remained unusually calm. A woman in a janitor's uniform came rushing toward him. "Daniel, I'm so sorry, baby. I got here later than I thought." She stopped when she saw the look on her son's face. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Daniel looked at his mother, then toward the direction Lucas had disappeared. "Something happened, Mom. I learned an important lesson today." "What kind of lesson, honey?" Daniel smiled, a small but determined smile. "I learned that some people need to be taught what compassion really means. And maybe I'm the one who's going to teach them." His mother frowned, not fully understanding his words. But something in his voice made her pause, a feeling deep in her chest that told her this encounter had planted a seed in Daniel's heart, one that might grow in ways no one could predict. 3 days after that encounter at the mall, young Daniel sat alone in a public library, flipping through pages of a business book with intense focus. Beside him on the table lay an issue of Forbes magazine. The familiar face on the cover made him stop. Lucas Bryant, the man who had coldly rejected him, was smiling smugly beneath the bold headline, "The Business Empire: How Lucas Bryant Built a $2 Billion Fortune." Daniel quietly ran his fingers across the magazine cover, memorizing every line of the man's face, the man who had denied him a simple hug. But what Daniel felt wasn't anger. It was something deeper, sharper, the forming of a goal. "Mom, that man is really rich, isn't he?" Daniel asked, as his mother Rosa sat down beside him after a grueling 16-hour cleaning shift. "Yes, sweetheart. Very rich," Rosa replied, wiping the sweat from her brow with the sleeve of her uniform. Daniel carefully folded the magazine closed. "But money isn't everything, right?" Rosa looked at him, her eyes soft-touched with a glint of pride. He was only 8 yet. Daniel often spoke with a maturity that surprised her. What she didn't yet know was that Daniel wasn't just bright. He had a photographic memory and an uncanny gift for logic far beyond his years. He was a special child, one the teachers had just begun to notice. That same week, while Daniel continued to spend his afternoons in the public library, Lucas Bryant appeared on a local TV channel in a polished interview about corporate social responsibility. The interviewer brought up programs supporting underprivileged communities. "We're always ready to help those who truly deserve it," Lucas said smoothly, straightening his expensive suit. "But we can't just hand out money to everyone. Some people need to learn that everything in life comes at a cost. Nothing is free." The host nodded in agreement. "And what about education for poor children?" Lucas gave a thin, dismissive smile. "Education only works when a child comes from a stable household. Without structure, investment is just money down the drain." On the other side of town, Daniel sat in the corner of the library watching the interview play out on a dusty television set mounted to the wall. Each word Lucas spoke landed like a personal blow, an insult carved into memory. But Daniel didn't cry. He didn't even frown. Instead, he smiled. "What are you smiling at?" Daniel asked Miss Benedita, the elderly librarian who had become like a second grandmother to him. "Because he just accidentally gave me every answer I needed," Daniel replied, eyes fixed on the screen, before returning to the pile of economics books stacked on the table. The following week, Daniel's elementary school held a science fair. His project left every teacher speechless, an analysis of economic inequality and educational opportunity in the United States. A topic complex enough to stump most high school students. "How do you even know all of this?" his teacher asked in disbelief, flipping through page after page of meticulously organized research. "I studied?" Daniel answered calmly. "I read about poor entrepreneurs who rose up, and about rich men who were born with everything and gave nothing back." She noticed a separate folder filled entirely with news clippings and reports about Bryant and Company. "And why are you so focused on this company in particular?" she asked. Daniel met her gaze, steady, calm, unblinking, the same look he once gave Lucas Bryant. "Because one day, I'm going to work there. No more than that. I'm going to own it." The teacher laughed at first, thinking it was just a child's dream. But the way Daniel arranged each financial chart, each corporate policy, each leadership profile, it made her pause. This wasn't just a dream. This was a blueprint. Meanwhile, Lucas Bryant continued living in his world of privilege, completely unaware that a seed of unwavering determination had taken root in the mind of a child he had once dismissed. Around that same time, Daniel uncovered something interesting while studying Bryant and Company's public financial disclosures. The company had received tens of millions in government grants earmarked for social integration initiatives. Yet not a single one had ever been implemented. Instead, the money had been redirected into profit-generating ventures, entirely legal on paper, but in truth a sophisticated form of exploitation. With Miss Benedita's help, Daniel printed out documents nightly. He filed them into separate folders by topic, each financial report, each leaked internal email, each hiring policy laced with bias. All of it meticulously archived, and Daniel was no longer alone. One quiet afternoon in the library, while he was deep in analysis, a tall older man approached him. It was Professor Harrison Mitchell, one of the few black faculty members at Columbia University known for publicly criticizing Lucas Bryant's elitist economic lectures. "You're the boy who submitted the analysis on corporate discrimination, aren't you?" Professor Mitchell asked, his gaze a mix of curiosity and warmth. "Yes, sir," Daniel replied politely, maintaining the calm posture he always adopted when speaking to someone he respected. "In 40 years of teaching, I've rarely seen an analysis so sharp, so layered in thought, especially from someone just 16. The professor sat on the edge of the table. "May I ask why you chose Bryant and Company as your subject?" Daniel hesitated for a moment, then decided to be honest. "You could say, it's personal, sir. Personal enough that I want to understand exactly how people like Lucas Bryant operate the world." Professor Mitchell nodded as if he'd expected that answer all along. "Personal motives often make for the best research. Would you be interested in working with me on a special project? That offer changed everything." For the first time, Daniel gained access to academic resources he had never even dreamed of. Mitchell wasn't just a teacher, he became Daniel's first strategic mentor. Together, they began working in quiet collaboration, building case files on Bryant and Company's discriminatory practices, collecting evidence of corruption and financial misconduct across satellite companies tied to Lucas Bryant's investments. All the while, Lucas remained untouched in his ivory tower, hosting seminars, closing million-dollar deals, and delivering keynote speeches at prestigious universities. In every lecture, he repeated the same mantra: success doesn't come from luck. It comes from bloodline, family structure, and knowing your place in society. Daniel followed his every move, interviews, new policy rollout speeches. Not out of obsession, out of strategy. The same way a surgeon studies every nerve and vessel before a complex operation. And then one evening in the university library, Daniel found the most important piece yet. Between 2015 and 2023, Bryant and Company had received over $47 million in tax breaks meant for social integration initiatives. Not a single program was implemented. All of the money was rerouted to private ventures entirely legal on paper, but in reality, a textbook example of system manipulation. "This is pure gold," Professor Mitchell whispered, scanning the documents. "But you need to understand, Lucas has the best legal team money can buy and deep political ties. Every move has to be exact." "I understand," Sir Daniel said, nodding as he organized the files with the precision of someone preparing for court. "I won't attack him head on. I'll use the very system he spent decades manipulating and turn it against him." That was when Daniel revealed his boldest plan to Professor Mitchell. It wasn't just about exposing Lucas Bryant, it was about replacing him. At just 16, Daniel had already designed a new business model rooted in ethics, equity, and performance. A model that not only rivaled Bryant & Co., but could ultimately prove that a morally grounded company could outperform one built on exploitation. "You're serious?" Mitchell asked, clearly impressed. "Very serious. Lucas Bryant planted a seed of determination in me 8 years ago. It's time he sees how tall that tree has grown." Mitchell smiled, eyes gleaming with pride. There was something in Daniel's voice, a calm, mixed with an undercurrent of power, the kind he'd only ever seen in true leaders. "Then let's get to work," he said. "But remember this, the road you're choosing won't be easy. People like Bryant don't take kindly to being challenged, especially not by people like me, and like you." Daniel nodded, packing the documents into his bag. "Lucas Bryant once told me the world owes me nothing. But he forgot one thing." His voice dropped, eyes turning toward the library's window and the dark skyline beyond. "What if I decide that I owe nothing to his world either?" 3 months later, after that fateful conversation with Professor Mitchell, a name began quietly circulating through academic circles: Daniel Carter. A 16-year-old black teenager with no formal college enrollment, but somehow present in high-level discussions with professors from Harvard, Yale, and MIT. No one knew exactly who he was. No official background, no social media. Only that he appeared quietly and asked questions so precise, so unsettling, that even top economists found themselves speechless. "He's a real genius," one professor whispered after a symposium. "No. He's more than a genius," murmured a hedge fund director. "He has a purpose, and that's what makes him terrifying." All of it led to a turning point no one could have predicted. Princeton University sent Daniel an invitation to speak at a public forum where entrepreneurs, scholars, and top students would gather to debate the future of ethical business. The moderator, none other than Lucas Bryant. And Daniel knew this was the first true opportunity to stand face to face with the man who had once looked down on him. On the day of the forum, the Princeton auditorium was packed. TV crews, journalists, and investors filled every seat, waiting eagerly to hear the usual grand declarations from Lucas, the man long revered as a titan of American business. But today, he wouldn't have the stage to himself. The event moderator stepped up, and now we welcome a very special guest, the youngest participant ever invited to this forum. Please welcome 16-year-old Daniel Carter. A ripple of murmurs spread through the hall. Lucas raised an eyebrow, mildly intrigued. He didn't recognize the name. But as Daniel stepped calmly onto the stage, their eyes met, and Lucas remembered. Just for a moment, something flickered behind his eyes, confusion quickly masked by a tight, practiced smile. "Ah, the boy from back then," Lucas thought. Then he chuckled inwardly. "He's grown, but still, just a kid." Daniel began his speech. When I was 8 years old, I once asked a man for money to buy a loaf of bread. He said something I'll never forget: "The world doesn't owe you anything." A hush fell over the audience. No one expected the speech to begin with such a personal memory. I agreed, the world doesn't owe me anything, but that doesn't mean I'll let the world lie to me, or to millions of others. Total silence now. For the past 10 years, hundreds of corporations have received billions in government subsidies under the banner of creating social equity. But according to my investigation, many of them, especially Bryant and Conti, have never delivered on their commitments. He pressed a button. Behind him, a screen lit up with figures, receipts, and money flow charts. Lucas straightened in his seat. His face remained still, but his eyes had gone cold. This company received $47 million from 2015 to 2023 to build vocational training centers for underprivileged youth. But every listed location is an empty lot. Gasps rippled through the room. Daniel continued calm and steady. No one investigated. No one was prosecuted. Because everything was legal on paper. And that's the problem. Our system allows this. And men like Lucas Bryant, celebrated as heroes, exploit it to fortify their power. Lucas stood abruptly and walked to the rebuttal mic. His voice rang out, "You're accusing me of a crime without any solid proof. This is a discussion, not a courtroom." Daniel smiled, unfazed. "Then let me ask you directly, Mr. Bryant. Can you confirm that the full $47 million was used for its intended purpose?" A beat of silence. "We have a full accounting and auditing team. I will not dignify baseless accusations with a response." Daniel turned to the panel, his voice crisp. "You're welcome to verify every number. All data presented here is backed by certified reports from 3 independent financial bodies. You may not know my name yet, but the truth doesn't care how young I am." Applause erupted, hesitant at first, then building in force. People stood. Phones went up to record. Lucas Bryant stood frozen. He was no longer smiling. The opponent he once dismissed now commanded the entire room, step by step, word by word, without a dollar of power, without a university degree. That night, headlines exploded. 16-year-old prodigy exposes billionaire's lies. It all started with a loaf of bread and a rejection. The boy who never forgot Daniel Carter, challenger of the Bryant Empire. Is this the future of America? Bryant and Company rushed out a public statement denying all allegations, but panic had already begun to spread within the company's walls. Inside the executive office on the 48th floor, Lucas Bryant slammed his fist onto the desk. "That kid, who the hell is he?" Daniel's personal secretary leaned in and whispered, "We couldn't trace his full background, but he's being backed by Professor Harrison Mitchell." Lucas clenched his fist. A name from the past one he thought had been buried long ago. "A no-name kid dares to stand in front of me," he muttered. "Very well, the game begins." 1 week after the explosive forum, the American financial world was shaken to its core. Daniel Carter's name was everywhere, from CNBC and Forbes to TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Clips of his speech racked up tens of millions of views within days. But behind the spotlight, a storm was gathering. On the 48th floor of the Bryant Global Holdings Tower in Manhattan, Lucas Bryant sat behind a massive mahogany desk, flanked by 3 top-tier lawyers and the company's head of PR. No one in the room dared to even breathe too loudly. "That boy." Lucas growled, his eyes sharp as razors. "He's being hailed like some kind of saint. He hasn't just damaged my reputation. He's threatening the entire power structure we've built over the last 30 years. The lead attorney stepped forward cautiously. "Sir, if you permit, we could file a defamation suit. Accusation of libel and reputational harm." "No," Lucas cut him off coldly. "If I sue, I'll be in court. And in court, he'll get to say even more. Social media will explode. No, we strike him where he doesn't see it coming." He turned to the internal security advisor. "I want everything on Daniel Carter. His family, his guardians, his mentor, bank accounts, phone records, everything. And I want it before the weekend." Meanwhile, Daniel remained quietly focused in a modest corner office at Professor Mitchell's private consultancy. He wasn't chasing fame. For Daniel, this wasn't a performance, it was a war. Mitchell stepped in with a cup of steaming tea. "You holding up?" he asked, placing a firm, reassuring hand on Daniel's shoulder. Daniel nodded, eyes still glued to his screen. On it, an intricate web of Bryant and Company's investment flows, a network of shell companies based in Ireland, the Cayman Islands, and Panama. I'm convinced Lucas Bryant is shifting profits offshore to avoid taxes, Daniel said, zooming in on a financial log. Some of these transactions line up exactly with the dates he publicly announced investments in underprivileged areas. Mitchell furrowed his brow. If we go public with this, he'll come at you with everything he has. Are you ready? Daniel took a sip of water, then said slowly, deliberately, I didn't come here for peace, Professor. I came to finish what he started 8 years ago. Mitchell smiled quietly. The poor kid from back then now challenging one of the most powerful men in America. Life is strange. But Lucas Bryant wasn't sitting still. On Monday morning, Daniel's bank accounts were frozen. That same afternoon, a tabloid blog published a smear article titled Daniel Carter Genius or Fraud. It accused him of faking his transcripts and embellishing his background to gain access to the forum. By Tuesday, Daniel's foster mother was fired from the hospital where she'd worked as a nurse for over 20 years. It all happened quietly, but unmistakably bore the fingerprints of Lucas Bryant. Daniel sat before his computer, eyes red. He now understood this was no longer a debate. This was war. Mitchell entered the room and handed him a thick envelope. You need to see this, he said. It's from an old friend of mine. He used to be the chief accountant at one of Bryant's subsidiaries. He left the company 5 years ago, but now he wants to help you. Daniel opened the envelope. Inside, forged internal contracts, illegal wire transfers, and a handwritten letter from Lucas Bryant himself addressed to a Panamanian partner bearing a clear signature. Daniel's hands clenched around the papers. This is the kill shot. Mitchell nodded. But you have to use it at the right time in the right place. If you go public too soon, he'll tear it apart legally. But if you strike at the right moment, he won't get back up. Daniel closed his eyes for a long second. When he opened them, there was a steel resolve in his gaze. I know exactly when that moment will come. That weekend, Lucas Bryant hosted a high-profile press conference in Washington, D.C., to unveil his new ethical investment strategy aimed at reforming the banking sector. Journalists, investors, and politicians packed the room. He intended to use the event to restore his public image. He didn't know what was coming. But just as Lucas was delivering his speech to a roaring round of applause, a live stream video suddenly began broadcasting across every major social media platform. I'm Daniel Carter. In the next few minutes, I will release documents proving that Lucas Bryant hasn't just lied to the public, he has broken the law. The auditorium fell dead silent. Lucas froze mid-sentence, his face darkening. On thousands of phones in the audience, internal documents, wire transfer records, and shady contracts began to appear. At the end of the video, a final message faded in. The truth waits for no one. If we don't speak up, then who will? The result. 1 week later, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission launched an official investigation into Bryant & Company. 3 major partners terminated their contracts, the company's stock plummeted, and Lucas Bryant was summoned to testify before Congress. In a modest office lit by a desk lamp, Daniel sat with Professor Mitchell watching the non-stop news updates scroll across the screen. He didn't smile. He simply sat in silence, reflective. Mitchell asked quietly, How do you feel? Daniel answered softly. This isn't a victory. This is only the first collapse. 3 weeks after the explosive expose, the American media landscape was rocked by new revelations every single day. Lucas Bryant, once dubbed the uncrowned king of Wall Street, was now facing a mountain of accusations: tax evasion, money laundering, market manipulation, and witness intimidation. Everything was falling apart fast. At an emergency hearing of the Senate Financial Oversight Committee, Daniel Carter, 22 years old, walked into the grand chamber like a warrior. No luxury suit, no PR team. Just him, an old laptop, and an unshakable belief that the truth mattered. Across from him, Lucas Bryant entered the room stone-faced. Black suit, gold-rimmed glasses, a tightly gripped folder in hand. Even as the world crumbled beneath him, he kept his head high. But deep in his eyes, there was a panic he could no longer hide. The chair of the hearing, Senator Ramos, began. Today we will hear testimony from 2 parties. First, Mr. Lucas Bryant, CEO of Bryant Global Holdings. Second, Mr. Daniel Carter, the whistleblower. All statements today are under oath and will be permanently entered into the congressional record. Lucas gave a faint smirk. Senator, this is nothing but a modern-day witch hunt. A delusional child going after the very people who built millions of jobs. Daniel looked up. I'm not going after job creators, sir. I'm going after abusers of power, those who exploit, manipulate, and crush the voiceless. The room fell into stunned silence. Daniel began his presentation. Illegal wire transfer logs. An internal letter signed by Lucas Bryant, addressed to a Panamanian bank. Evidence of money laundering through fake charitable foundations. And an audio recording from Bryant's former financial assistant. I was ordered to wipe the servers every quarter. Mr. Bryant said it was for cybersecurity purposes. But in truth, it was to cover his tracks. Lucas began to sweat. Still, he didn't back down. He gestured to his lawyer, who stood to object. These documents could be forged. Their origin can't be independently verified. But then, a voice rang out from the back of the hearing room. What about me then? Everyone turned. It was Sarah Goldman Bryant's former head of HR, who had mysteriously disappeared 5 years ago after resigning without explanation. She stepped forward and placed a hard drive on the hearing table. This is a full server backup from 2019. I kept it because I knew one day the truth would need protection. Lucas shot up from his seat, face pale. Sarah, you're betraying me. Sarah looked him dead in the eye. This isn't betrayal. This is redemption. I stayed silent out of fear. But because of him, she glanced at Daniel. I remembered that the silence of good people is the soil where evil grows. 3 days later, all of Lucas Bryant's assets were frozen. He was federally indicted on 7 criminal counts. A special congressional committee was formed to investigate corporate investment firms, all based on Daniel's testimony. At a nationally televised press conference, Senator Ramos declared, "We have just witnessed something rare, a young citizen, no power, no status, doing what an entire system feared to do, speaking the truth." Daniel Carter wasn't just brave, he became the voice of a generation. 3 months later, an entirely different scene, Daniel stood in front of a modest building in Brooklyn. Above him, a hand-painted wooden sign read, "The Carter Institute for Economic Justice Support and Financial Education for Black Youth and Working-Class American Families." Mitchell approached holding 2 coffees. "You did it," he said. Daniel smiled faintly. "I'm not done yet, Professor. This is only the beginning." From a distance, a group of black schoolchildren ran toward them. A little girl, maybe 10 years old, called out, "Mr. Daniel, are you telling us another story about the ugly Wall Street today?" Daniel knelt down, looking into her bright, curious eyes. "Not to scare you, sweetheart, but so you'll never have to be afraid when you grow up." Later, Daniel stood on the rooftop, gazing out over New York City, where light and darkness clashed, and where forgotten children were finally being given a chance. On the giant Times Square screen, a TV anchor's voice echoed, "Remember the name Daniel Carter, the young man who reminded America that justice doesn't need power. It only takes one person brave enough to stand up at the right moment."